What the heck is Dungeons and Dragons? I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Dungeons and Dragons, what with the gargantuan popularity of the 5th edition of the game, or maybe you've seen it on YouTube with all those funny YouTube podcast shows, or maybe you have a friend who won't shut up about D&D and keeps inviting you to their games, and you think, yeah, it'd be fun to play, but I don't know what I'm getting into, and I don't really want to jump into something that I'm not going to enjoy. That's where I come in. I'm going to boil D&D down into its most basic components for you so you can inspect it like the game scientist you are and decide whether or not D&D is right for you. Dungeons and Dragons, or D&D as it's more commonly called, was a tabletop role-playing game invented by Gary Gygax and Dave Anderson way back in 1974. Although it's gone through a myriad of changes and alterations over the years, the core of the game is about shared storytelling. It's a cooperative game, not a competitive one. This game is about shared storytelling with your friends, where you create wacky characters and go on insane magical adventures exploring dungeons and fighting dragons. That makes you a co-actor and a co-writer with your friends. Don't worry, the writing stuff we'll get to later and the actor stuff we'll get into right now. This game has essentially 2 roles to play in its most basic, lukewarm, boiled down, concentrated components. The role of the player or the dungeon master. The players play the game. Yeah, it's pretty simple. You make a character, you play that role in this role-playing game while going on these fantasy adventures through your friend's theater of the mind. It's very simple and easy to understand at a base, but just know that being a player means that you are encountering a world as a character with other friends who have also made their own characters in this world, and you kind of build on your shared stories together. It's very simple and a lot of fun, and I recommend it for new and old players. Everyone could play more D&D. The second role to play is that of the Dungeon Master, or DM. Also referred to as the Game Master, this guy is literally the master of dungeons and master of the game. Instead of making a character that explores a mythical world and builds on their own story, the Dungeon Master is in charge of the world around the players. Not only does he have to create the environment, he also has to fill it with characters, locations, adventures, mysteries, magic items, treasure, lots of dungeons, and lots of dragons. Now, if that sounds like a lot to you, don't worry. It is. Being a DM is very difficult and very time-consuming, and although it can be extremely rewarding, I do not recommend it for new players. 100% become a player first, understand how the game works, and if you're feeling up to it, talk to your DM and see if you can become the DM of your party's future. Despite all of this and all the stuff I'll get into later regarding stuff like combat and classes and magic and all these big-ass books, what, you mean I have to read all of this? Don't worry about that. Just know that if you get a group of people you really care about together and you make some wacky, interesting, fun characters that you like to play and you just have fun, that's the golden rule. This is a game, and it's a game where you can have fun as a group without having to compete towards a goal and relive the toxicity of all those intense family Monopoly nights. I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoy your game. Have fun.